I'm getting so tired. I'm getting so.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. Today, I'm going to tell you a story about this guy that I've come to know quite well. I call him Drewski. I consider him to be a friend of mine. And the story of how we became friends is weird. It's weird. I'll tell y'all that another day. It was when I was doing things I had no business. Y'all know what it is. But something happened the other week that really made me see him in a totally different light. I already had the utmost respect for him. But something occurred the other day. He allowed me to, shall I say, like, take a glimpse of something that he experienced, and he took me on this journey with him, not intentionally, how he resolved this issue. And let me lay the foundation for y'all. Drewski is a juvenile offender. And I want y'all to realize that, you know, in the Department of Correction, they have these, I don't know if they still do, but back in the day, they had these different units at the prisons that only housed juveniles, right? Kids, right? These are kids. And somebody thought this was a good idea. And, you know, think about a playground at school. You got all of these kids on the playground, and you got groups of kids here and groups of kids there, but in this situation, you got some of them are gang members and other kids are there just want to do their time and go home, or whatever the case may be, but they're in an adult facility. So they're having to learn because they know that eventually they're going to end up on the compound with adults. And the juveniles that are there, some of them are extremely violent, and they live the gang life. And when you're a part of a gang, and y'all know when I was back in rotation what that means. When you're part of a gang, you often do things that don't make sense, but it makes sense to you. And you prey on people. You prey on other people. And the juveniles in this housing unit, we're going to say, some of them become the prey. And that's what happened to Drewski. Drewski ran into some guys that were gang members. And this gang member ordered the other gang members to beat him up. Doesn't matter why, because that's what happens in the adult facilities. I want y'all to understand. So they beat him up. And after the fight, if I'm not mistaken, and don't get it wrong, I'm gonna let y'all know, I got Drewski with me. So anything that I say that's a little bit off point, when we bring him into the story, he's gonna clear it up or whatnot, right? But he was beat up. He was ordered, well, another gang member ordered some of his followers to beat him up. And they beat him up. And for whatever reason, he wanted that gang member to know years later, that he had forgiven him. And the story behind that is what I want y'all to hear. Because I had never experienced anybody wanting to do that. He actively sought this person out after a chance meeting and all this and that, right? But y'all know how it is. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to introduce Drewski. And I'm going to let him tell this story because I think it's one that y'all need to hear, because we don't often take the proactive approach in wanting people that have hurt us to know that we forgive them. And if you haven't done that, ask yourself why. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce Drewski. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Hi, I'm grateful that you offered me the opportunity to be here.
Well, that's good. I'm going to let y'all know off the top. Drew's a little nervous, y'all. He's a little nervous. He's trying to talk, learn to, talk in these type of settings, because let me tell y'all something. This dude is an amazing dude. I'm telling you, he's an amazing dude. He's one of those few people that you meet in this environment that is genuine all the way through. And tell us what happened. But let me ask you this so you'll know how I want you to set this up. Tell us what a typical day was like at this juvenile housing unit in an adult facility.
All right, so I mean, first of all, I want to say that we were not necessarily juveniles by the legal sense of the word.
Okay.
This was a program that was set up for everybody who is from the age of 18 to 22 who is in the penitentiary in order to get them accustomed to penitentiary life.
Okay.
Now, a lot of the guys that were being put into this program, me included, had already done a few years. We'd already been, in the penitentiary for a little while.
Okay.
And I'm not trying, this is not the topic of the subject, but this was the state just trying to throw together a program so they could get that grant money.
Okay.
Without actually knowing what the program was going to be. And that kind of sets the stage for it, because you now have this unit that's 2 pods, 128 people a pod, nothing but 18 to 22-year-olds, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what the program is, so you have all of us locked in this unit together with nothing to do.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, a majority of these guys, are affiliated, they're young, and there's no, older guys to enact necessarily any organization.
No structure.
There's no structure at all.
Right.
So, for the first, several months, I'm usually the type of person I can get along with just about anybody. And so I got along with everyone. But as time went on, people got more and more bored, people got more and more restless. They came up with just stuff to do on their own, and that became more and more chaotic. Lots of people had already been, robbed, jumped, checked in, and it was coming towards the end of the stay, and there was few of us left that they had yet to try. Now the reason you mentioned that the reason didn't matter, why they came in. The reason that they came in my room was I had a pair of boots that they wanted. I had a pair of boots that were I only wore to visit. Now, before I go on and finish telling the story, though, I just want to know that the reason this specific event is important, and the reason I don't really talk about this event very often, is because to me this is the most embarrassing event that occurred in my whole 15 years.
Okay.
I've been in lots of fights, I've been in lots of situations since I've been locked up. This is the only time that I've been robbed. It's the only time I've actually had something taken from me. And so the situation set up is there is a man that I had gotten along with. He was a man that I actually, did business with. We talked, and I thought that we were friends. I thought that we were cool. And this man, because he found somebody else that wanted a pair of boots like I had, decided that friendship was not really valuable anymore. It wasn't as valuable as the business he could do with those boots anyway. So he sent a few guys in there to get them. So I had just got off the phone, walked in my cell, and when I walked in my room, these guys walked in behind me. And when I turned around and asked them what was up, one of them told me, "You know what it is." He said, "Break bread." And I was like, "Man, I really ain't got nothing. You can tell on the shelf, I really ain't got nothing on the shelf." And he said, "No, that's not what we want." And he walked around me and picked my boots up off the ground. At this point, my cellie had walked in behind them, but still it was just me and my cellie. It wasn't enough, of us as there were them. So I see he's got my boots in his hand and he's trying to walk past, and I block his way, and I try to snatch my boots out of his hand, and when I go to snatch them, he hits me in the face while the one behind me throws me to the ground. Mm-hmm. And the other ones pin my cellie up against the toilet and start beating on him. Well, they grab my boots back up and they take off running. Now, for some reason, my natural reaction was to take off after them. Mm-hmm. So I ran out the cell, chased them up the stairs, and went down the walk. And when I got there, I wanted to get my stuff back.
Yeah.
And they said, "That's fine." So they put me, had me on the wall, pat me down, make sure I didn't have the butcher on me. And then he walked in the cell, and I walked in the cell behind him. and then the rest of them walked in the cell behind me. And when I walked in, they hit me in the back of the head, and that's when they flipped me, put me on the ground, and one of them held me down while the other one was kicking me in the face with his boots, and the other one was taking everything I had off of me. He took my other boots off my feet, he took the watch off my wrist, and they took everything that I had with the exception of one thing, and it's why it's, actually something that means a lot to me, is I have a necklace. This necklace has a cross on it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them had pulled the necklace out from my shirt, and for some reason he asked, like, do you want to take this too? And one of the guys was like, no, go ahead and let him have that. And so I don't know what put it on, on him to take everything but my chain, but for some reason, because it's something that God let me keep.
Yeah.
Like I said, to me, this was the most embarrassing situation I've been in, because when they took my boots, he gave me his worn out boots. And in this situation is, after they got done and they told me to, get up out the cell, everybody, all 128 people in this pod know what happened.
Yeah.
I'm walking out the pod now in a pair of boots that don't belong to me, that are worn out. Both my pairs.
On your feet?
Yeah. Both my pairs of boots have been stolen. My watch been took. I'm busted up and bloody. And I feel, no, I wasn't crying at this point. I was, that didn't hit me until later.
Okay, let me ask you this. Now, I don't want to stop you flow. How tall are you?
5'7".
How much did you weigh then?
At that time, I weighed 119 pounds.
119 pounds. I just wanted people to know that. Now, go ahead.
So, like I said, the reason this was so hard for me to talk about is just because it was very humiliating. You feel weak.
Yeah.
You feel pathetic. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
In that first moment when they came in the first time, I felt like, well, I can resolve this by standing on my own. If I can get this one-on-one, at least I can feel like I stood up and I tried, but that I wasn't even allowed that. The second on my feet, anytime I try to get another one-on-one, it's going to go the same way.
That's right.
And he told me that. He said, you're not affiliated, you don't get one-on-ones. So pretty much they get to do what they want, and I just have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that's a very degrading place to be at.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're at the mercy of pretty much of somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, my symptom was waiting at the bottom of the stairs and would refuse to let him come up the stairs. And he lied to my cell. He told my cell, y'all, he's getting a one-on-one, but he knew that's not what was happening.
Was the guy that you were cool with or thought you were cool with, was he affiliated?
Yeah, he was the one over them.
He was over them?
Yeah, he was over them, and he was the one that sent them in there.
Was your cellie affiliated?
No, my cell was not affiliated.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What do you think the message... Now, again, I asked this question because a lot of y'all that listen, you got kids, or you think you about that life yourself and all that old kind of stuff, which I tell you all the time that you don't want to be about this life. But you said something a few seconds ago, Drew, about they can do what they want to. And I know that's not... You don't want to send a message that come to prison, join the gang. I know that's not...
No, not at all.
Absolutely. So what would be the message to that young person that might be listening, or the parent that might be listening, or the uncle or cousin or dad that might be listening? What would be the message that you would want them to know about in relation to, how it feels to be totally helpless in a situation like that?
I think that being a part of a lot of people when they come to prison, they've just lost everything that they've known, everything that they were a part of, and so they're desperate to belong to something again. Mm-hmm. And they'll seek anything,
right.
Anything that feels like a brotherhood, anything that seems like a family, because they just lost theirs.
Right.
And so they'll look to join something that can supplement that can replace that. But oftentimes they look for that immediate fix. And the long fill that void. But people, especially when you're young, you don't understand that in the moment. I'm very glad that God pressed upon me not to join anything the entire time I was locked up. And I had opportunities and I've had proposals. But for some reason in the moment, I don't want to say that it was anything that like within me, any character or integrity within me. For some reason in those moments, God would only allow the word "no, I'm good" to come out of my mouth. You know, and so I'll give all credit for the fact that I've managed to stay on my own this long to the Holy Spirit. I give it to Him, because it was not in my own strength that I was able to say no, because I was scared. I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, so all logic would say this would make things a lot easier, a lot safer for me. But for some reason, God would not allow me to take the easy route out.
So you said that this has been one of the most humiliating experiences of your prison experience, right? So did you tell your parents or anybody about this? I'm talking about when it happened. Did you say anything when you got?
No. I try to keep that stuff as much to myself as possible.
Why?
I just don't like needlessly worrying other people, especially when there's nothing they can really do about it. You know, because I don't, like I told you, when I came out of that room, I felt helpless. I don't want anybody else to feel helpless. That's not a feeling you want anybody else to feel.
Right. And that's, I asked that question because, you know, when stuff happens, when you're out there in the world, when stuff happens to you, you run to the people that love you, your parents, grandparents, whoever it is. But when you're in here, ain't nobody coming to help you.
Right.
And I want people to understand it, especially the younger people out there. I want you to understand, ain't nobody coming to help you. But you don't have to find yourself in this situation in here. You don't have to find yourself in here. You just don't want to put yourself in a situation that brings you to prison. And you find out that, you know, Superman ain't coming. This stuff don't end like a movie. You know what I mean? So tell me, how did that shape the way you did your time the next couple of years after the assault?
I would say that I was angry for a while. You know, I would say that actually, I mean, I already, you know, I told you what my height and my weight was.
Right.
Complex.
Yeah.
But when you're already kind of a angry, you know, kind of a bitter individual, something like that reinforces it. Any sort of prejudices or any sort of ill will you had towards anybody becomes reinforced.
Right.
And so it just compounds that. And so now you're ready even more to go to battle over just the smallest stuff, because you feel like you got to compensate for this embarrassing moment with every single small moment that comes in the future. Mm-hmm. So now you have something like as small as somebody owes you a soup and you're getting overly aggressive, not because that soup matters, but because you still feel emasculated by what happened in the past and you're trying to make up for that.
Yeah, I get that. Look, I want to get into, as the years go on, I want to get into that because you just laid the foundation of how it shapes. But we're going to do that in the next episode. So if y'all want to continue to hear what Drewski's experience was like, I call him Drewski, y'all. It's short for, it's long for Drew, but short for, you know what I'm saying, his name, Andrew. And I really need y'all to listen to what he's got to say and tune in to the next episode, because it's going to get better, because the whole crux of this story is the power that he found within himself to do something that I believe is truly amazing, right? And I think you're going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be something that open your eyes up to the power of the Most High. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I said peace, y'all.
I'm getting so tired.